Hey, Caitlin! Can you make it from there? Hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it from there. No chance.
Caitlin, from me, let.
You got it. I'm not even gonna ask.
Stop everything and listen to this, because what Caitlin Clark has been doing off the court has just become just as insane as anything she's pulled from 30 feet on the court. And that's saying something. This is the same player who shattered the all-time NCAA scoring record with 3,951 points, hit more than 340 career threes, and managed to make logo-range heat checks look like a casual Tuesday. She pulled defenders out to distances they had no business guarding, pulled in viewership numbers women's basketball had never seen before, and turned 18.7 million people watching a title game into the new normal. National networks rewrote their entire schedules around Iowa games. Entire arenas sold out just to watch her step over half court. So when she stepped into national advertising campaigns, brands realized they didn't need to invent anything. They didn't need special effects or exaggeration. They just tapped into what millions of fans already knew. Caitlin Clark shoots from anywhere, hits from anywhere, and carries this almost cartoon-like blend of confidence and precision that makes even the absurd look somehow routine. And every single ad she's done captures that energy in a completely different way. What's wild is that these aren't just commercials anymore. They're becoming the main event.
Hey, Caitlin from here might be impressive. Am I right?
Whatever, Chet.
So right here.
From there!
From anywhere.
The moment Caitlin Clark stepped into professional basketball, something shifted. Not just in how people watched women's sports, but in how brands understood what happens when an athlete doesn't just play the game differently. They changed the entire conversation. Her college career wasn't just dominant. It was a phenomenon that rewrote what anyone thought was possible from the perimeter. She finished with over 1,000 assists in addition to being the leading scorer. She averaged more than 8 assists per game while still being the primary offensive engine. That combination almost never happens. Analysts were practically breaking their keyboards trying to explain how one player could operate in 2 roles simultaneously. But that's exactly what made her perfect for advertising. She wasn't one-dimensional. She was the opposite. When brands started coming to her, they faced an interesting challenge. How do you sell something when the person you're representing is already more interesting than any story you could write? The answer became clear pretty quickly. You don't exaggerate. You don't manufacture drama. You don't create fictional scenarios that don't match reality.
Hey, State Farm's here to help, no matter how long you've been in the game.
Game? Oh, man.
Pickles.
It worked!
Instead, you take what already happened and you lean into it. You find the moments that felt impossible when fans watch them live, and you turn those moments into the setup for the joke. That's exactly what happened. Nike came first with the simplest possible concept. The idea was straightforward but brilliant in its execution. They recognized that for years, fans had the same reaction every single time she pulled up from deep. They'd think there's no way. That's too far. She can't make that. And then she'd make it. And everyone watching would lose their minds. So Nike decided to build an entire campaign around that exact psychological loop. They made the doubt part of the setup. They made the distance part of the joke. They made the disbelief the actual structure of the commercial, and then they let her do what she's been doing all along, proving everyone wrong. What makes this approach work is that it's not manufactured funny. It's real funny. It's the kind of humor that emerges when you're capturing something that actually happened dozens of times during her college career. She did hit shots from impossible distances. She did pull up from logo as casually as other players take free throws. She did torch elite programs from spots on the floor where most Division I players haven't even attempted a 3. The Nike commercial wasn't creating a narrative. It was extracting the narrative that already existed from her actual games. But here's what's important. This wasn't just about one commercial. This was the beginning of something bigger. Because once Nike opened that door, every other brand realized the same thing. The most authentic version of Caitlin Clark, the one that actually connects with audiences, isn't the polished version. It's the version that feels closest to what fans already saw on the court. It's the version where she's reading plays that nobody else sees yet. It's the version where her competitive instinct shows up in completely wrong situations and makes everything funny without her trying. It's the version where she's casually confident in a way that doesn't feel arrogant because she's already proven she has every right to be. State Farm came next, then Capital One, then Xfinity, then Game Bridge, then Gatorade. And with each new campaign, the ecosystem of her off-court presence started building into something that felt organic rather than corporate. These weren't separate endorsement deals competing for space. They were different angles on the same person, different tones, exploring the same core identity. Comedy in one spot, self-aware humor in another, documentary-style intensity in another. But in every single case, she remained the focal point without ever forcing it. The timing was crucial too. Her rookie WNBA season broke every league metric imaginable, highest viewership in history. Multiple games pushing past 1.2 million live viewers. Sold out arenas everywhere she went. Over 50,000 jerseys sold in months, shattering previous league records. And right in the middle of that explosion, these commercials started hitting different because they had context. She wasn't just a hyped rookie anymore. She was immediately a cultural moment. The ads captured that energy perfectly because they were being released into a moment where people were already watching her closely. The Nike commercial opens exactly like a highlight reel. You hear that familiar game call energy, Caitlin Clark from the logo, and immediately the entire tone shifts into something playful, something everyday, something that strips away the stadium noise and replaces it with genuine questions from friends and strangers. Hey Caitlin, can you make it from there? That's the entire premise. That's the whole campaign. Someone points to progressively more ridiculous distances, and the group starts doubting her like we're back in 2021, when people still hadn't figured out that telling Caitlin Clark she can't make a shot is the fastest way to watch her drain one. The genius of this commercial is in its simplicity. There's no elaborate set piece. There's no manufactured drama. There's no storyline that requires suspension of disbelief. It's just friends and bystanders asking increasingly absurd questions. Can you make it from the sideline? How about from the stairwell? What about from the upper deck? And the beauty of it is that every single distance they ask about, she's actually made before. This isn't exaggeration. This is documentation. The sideline shot, she pulled that 100 times. The stairwell distance, that's basically half court area range. The upper deck, that's literally the kind of shot she was known for, the kind that made highlight reels feel incomplete. Each little snippet is perfect. A friend pointing from the corner with zero confidence. Someone yelling from the balcony like they're trying to psych her out. Another person saying from here might be impressive, and her reply of whatever just deadpan calm about it. Whatever it is, from right here. The escalation keeps building until the only logical conclusion is the narrator laughing. From there, from anywhere. Then the final beat lands exactly right. Looks like she can do it, because that's what everyone learned. She can do it. From there. From anywhere, pick a distance. She's made it. What makes this work for Nike is that they didn't have to write comedy. They just exaggerated her normal behavior by about 5%, and suddenly it becomes a punchline. Millions of fans had the exact same thought during her actual games. There's no way, that's too far. She can't possibly make that. Oh, never mind, she made it. Nike built an entire ad around the joke everyone was already making in their living rooms, their cars, their sports bars, their dorm rooms. They took the collective experience of watching her play and turned it into shareable moments. The commercial also works on a secondary level because of timing. This campaign launched right around when her $28 million lifetime deal with Nike was being finalized. So the whole thing becomes a wink to her dominance off the court as well. She's not just shooting from deep anymore. She's hitting from anywhere off the court too. She's pulling deep on every platform, in every space, expanding her range in ways that go way beyond basketball. The commercial is funny on its surface, but it's also a celebration of her expansion as a cultural force. What's interesting is how the internet responded. People didn't just watch the commercial and move on. They started clipping it. They started sharing the specific moments. A friend's doubtful expression became a meme. The casual way she responds with that whatever attitude became a reaction gif. The escalation of distances became a template that got replicated in other contexts. Because the commercial tapped into something real, people found ways to extend it, to remix it, to make it part of the culture rather than just marketing content. And that's exactly what separates these Nike ads from traditional athlete endorsements. Traditional commercials have a lifespan. They run their course, they get replaced. But when you build a commercial around something that actually happened, around something that millions of people already found funny, that commercial becomes self-sustaining. It becomes part of the conversation because it's rooted in reality. The question from there, from anywhere, that became part of how fans actually talk about her game now. If Nike captured her range, State Farm captured her identity, and they did it in the simplest possible way. The From the Logo campaign is basically a tribute to the shot that made half the country stop what they were doing every single time she pulled from deep. It opens with that familiar game call energy, the announcer saying her name with that intensity that only comes when something special is about to happen. Caitlin Clark from the logo. And immediately, it turns into something playful and completely ordinary. Caitlin Clark from the logo. You know, life would be easier if I could do everything from the logo. Allow me to assist. The setup is clean. Instead of a stadium, she's in normal everyday spaces. A kitchen, a living room, a board game table. These are the places where life actually happens, and the entire joke is that she's doing completely normal things from logo distance, which sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. But that's exactly what makes it work. She's making buckets in a kitchen scenario. She's landing moves at a board game table like she's executing a play. She's handling everything with the same casual precision she brings to the court. And because the locations are so mundane, the premise becomes absurd enough to be funny without feeling forced. The key detail is how casual she makes it look. There's no effort. There's no big reaction. There's no celebration or fist pump or anything that suggests she's impressed with herself. Just the same calm, natural face making it look as if everything she's doing is completely routine. Oh, that's a tomato. Sheboygan. The answer is Sheboygan. They match. She just tosses things perfectly from logo distance like that's how people normally operate in their kitchens. Like that's the standard way to play board games. Like everyone reads the room the way she reads a basketball court. And then the second State Farm ad flips the entire tone. This is the one with Jimmy Butler and Reggie Miller, and it leans fully into controlled chaos. It starts simple enough. A couple casually says shoot. But the moment they say it, everything turns into a misunderstanding that escalates perfectly. Shoot. Okay, I'll shoot, but I don't see any hoop. No, I said shoot because of the insurance thing. I'm sorry, I'll shoot. Where's the hoop? They don't have one. Just stop saying the word. I didn't know. The running joke is that Caitlin reacts instantly like she's in a game. The word shoot triggers her like pure muscle memory. She looks ready to fire a 3 even though there's no actual hoop in sight. That's the humor. She's always mentally in basketball mode even when the situation makes absolutely zero sense. And here's where it gets interesting. Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, someone who literally built his entire career on deep threes, is just standing there watching the whole thing spiral. He's silent. He's observing. He's the silent witness to her competitive instinct showing up in completely wrong moments. The couple keeps repeating shoot. The timing keeps getting worse. The confusion keeps escalating. And then Jimmy adds commentary that keeps making it hilarious. Don't worry, State Farm makes it easy to file a claim on the app for a new car or even that old Pacer. Someone call for an old Pacer. What makes it land is that she doesn't overplay it. There's no exaggerated comedy face. There's no forced reaction. It's just her normal competitive instinct showing up in the wrong setting, and that's what makes it genuinely funny. The commercial works because it captures something true about athletes at that level. The mindset doesn't turn off. The instinct doesn't go dormant just because the situation changes. You can put them in a kitchen or a diner or a casual conversation, but part of their brain is always in the game. And State Farm found a way to make that relatable and hilarious without ever having to explain it. The audience gets it because they've seen enough of her to know that's exactly how she'd react. Then came the Capital One ad, the moment that made everyone realize Caitlin Clark had entered a completely different tier. This wasn't a cameo. This wasn't a prop. This was a takeover. The setup is simple on the surface. Samuel L. Jackson, Magic Johnson, and Charles Barkley sitting in a diner booth doing their annual March Madness campaign. This is the same franchise that usually features Larry Bird, Spike Lee, Michael Jordan references. It's one of the biggest recurring sports commercial series in the entire country. We're talking about one of the most exclusive clubs in advertising. And Caitlin walks into that environment not as a guest star, not as someone getting a moment, but as a fourth presence with the same weight as the legends already in the booth. The commercial uses her strengths in the funniest way possible. She tosses a burger bun across the diner, and it lands perfectly on a plate. She flicks a cherry onto Magic's ice cream like she's executing one of those full-court offhand, falling sideways passes she threw at Iowa. 3 scoops? She scores. The precision is there, the timing is there, the quiet confidence is there. But what makes it special is that she does it all with a smirk. That same smirk she had after dropping a 30-footer against LSU in the Elite Eight. Everyone else reacts big. She stays calm. That dynamic is what makes the ad hilarious because it's authentic to who she is. But here's what changed everything. Behind-the-scenes footage leaked showing Magic Johnson legitimately excited to meet her. Not as a celebrity meeting another celebrity. Not as a legend obligated to be professional, but genuinely excited because he sees her impact. He's compared her effect on the WNBA to what he and Bird did for the NBA back in the 80s. That's not casual praise, that's real respect. And Charles Barkley, who's been publicly defending her since she entered the WNBA, immediately starts cracking jokes like she's been part of the crew for years. He's not treating her like a guest, he's treating her like a peer. The BTS footage is where the commercial transcends being just an ad. You see them laughing, you see the looseness, you see Barkley say she's incredible. You see Magic genuinely impressed not by her fame but by her presence. And that shift in how we perceive the commercial changes everything. It's not just a polished TV spot anymore. It's documentation of something real happening. It's legends in sports and entertainment validating another legend before she's even finished her rookie season. The trick shots in the diner become more meaningful with that context. When she lands a cherry on Magic's ice cream, that's not just comedy. That's her court vision translating into real space. When she tosses the burger bun, that's not just a visual gag. That's her understanding angles that other people don't see. And because we've seen the behind the scenes, because we know Magic and Barkley aren't faking it, the commercial hits on multiple levels. It's funny as a standalone ad, but it's also documentation of respect being passed from one generation of greatness to another. What made this moment matter is the timing in her career. She's weeks into her rookie WNBA season. She's breaking league viewership records. She's averaging 19 points and 8 assists. She's doing things statistically that rookies literally don't do. And then she's simultaneously stepping into the most elite commercial franchise in sports, alongside some of the biggest names in basketball history. That's not a guest spot. That's a takeover. That's recognition that she's not just a promising rookie, she's already a cultural force. The commercial also works because it doesn't over-explain anything. The audience knows who these people are, the audience knows what they're seeing, and the commercial respects that by just letting the moments happen. No exposition, no explanation of why she belongs there. She just belongs there, and everyone watching gets it immediately. That's the mark of something that's actually transcended typical advertising. Then there's the Xfinity commercial, and this one is perfect in its simplicity. The joke is almost too easy on the surface. Not all Caitlin Clarks are the same. It's a play on the company's standard messaging, but instead of talking about internet providers, they're talking about different people named Caitlin Clark, which sounds basic until the execution hits. There's Caitlin Clark, the city planner, and then there's Caitlin Clark, the one who casually pulls up from logo like she's checking the time. The contrast is instant, and the humor works because it's absurd. Regular Caitlin Clarks introduce themselves with ordinary energy. They're just normal people doing normal things. And then basketball Caitlin pops in with a dry line that cuts through everything. She shoots from here. That's kind of my thing. It's the most understated performance of all her commercials, and because it's understated, it works perfectly. There's no exaggeration. There's no dramatic energy. It's just a casual statement of fact delivered with the kind of confidence that only comes from actually being able to back it up. The humor is the contrast between ordinariness and exceptionalism. The commercial leans into the idea that there are many Caitlin Clarks in the world, and most of them are probably perfectly fine people doing perfectly fine things. But there's one Caitlin Clark who does something that nobody else does. And that Caitlin Clark doesn't need to announce it loudly. She just states it like it's the most obvious thing in the world. She shoots from here. That's kind of my thing. Xfinity also slips in a funny, unspoken truth. Her connection is as reliable as her jumper. It's the kind of metaphor that writes itself when your spokesperson is someone who hit threes from distances that should legally require a permit. You don't need to explain that metaphor. The audience gets it immediately because they've watched her shoot. They know how reliable she is. And now they're being told that Xfinity's connection is that reliable. It's a one-to-one comparison that doesn't require any explanation. What makes this commercial particularly clever is how it mirrors the State Farm from the logo approach, but inverts it. Instead of showing her doing impossible things in ordinary spaces, it's showing her existing as an ordinary person in her own space with one extraordinary defining trait. The setup is cleaner, the execution is tighter, and the joke lands harder because it's delivered with such restraint. In a world where commercials often scream at you, this one whispers and somehow becomes more memorable because of it. The timing of this ad lines up perfectly with a wave of real-world success that was undeniable. Her rookie season pushed average WNBA attendance up by more than 25% league-wide. Teams were moving games to bigger arenas. Opponents were selling out home games for the first time in years. Xfinity leaned into that growth by placing her as the face of real-deal reliability, something fans were already seeing in her game every single night. She wasn't just good at one thing. She was reliable at the thing that mattered most. The commercial also works because it doesn't oversell. It doesn't need to. The audience already knows the story. She's the player who hit more threes than anyone in college history. She pulled from logo consistently. She's breaking WNBA records as a rookie. The commercial doesn't need to explain why she's remarkable because the culture is already explaining it. Xfinity just needed to connect her reliability to their reliability, and the metaphor did the heavy lifting. One other element that makes this work is how dry the delivery is. Most athlete commercials would have energy. They'd have personality bursting out. But this one is almost bored. She shoots from here. That's kind of my thing. It's delivered like she's explaining something obvious to someone who should already know it, which is funny because it suggests confidence without arrogance. It's just stating facts. And because we know the facts, because we've watched her play, the commercial becomes this perfect capture of her actual demeanor translated into advertising. The game bridge assist obsessed commercial looks simple on the surface, but the execution is what makes it hit different. The setup is clean and almost understated. Caitlin Clark is framed around the idea of assists, not just in basketball, but in life, in movement, in timing, in awareness of what's happening around her. The brand message is tied to game bridge-style savings assists, but the way they build it visually is what makes it stick and linger in your mind. Right away, they lean into what everyone already knows about her game. In college, she finished with over 1,000 assists. In her final NCAA season, she averaged more than 8 assists per game while still being the primary scorer. That combination is rare enough that analysts constantly pointed it out. She wasn't just a scorer. She was essentially running 2 roles at once. She was the offensive engine and the playmaker simultaneously. So when the ad starts showing her in these everyday assist moments, it doesn't feel random. It feels like a translation of her actual basketball identity into real life. One moment has her casually turning a normal interaction into an assist-like setup. She's reading angles that other people don't see. She's anticipating what's going to happen before it happens. She's moving the play forward in ways that don't involve her directly scoring, because that's who she is on the court. She sees the pass a full second before everyone else reacts. And in this commercial, that instinct shows up everywhere. Then it escalates into the more comedic beats. Popcorn tossed mid-game that lands perfectly into someone's mouth without them expecting it. Caitlin Clark, amazing at assists. Game bridge, the ultimate assist for your savings. A spontaneous high five that connects at the exact right second. Small background reactions where people realize too late that she's already passed the moment to them. And subtle, but it mirrors her court vision perfectly. Because on the court, she's known for seeing passes that exist in spaces that shouldn't exist yet. What's interesting about this commercial is how it avoids the trap of overstating things. It doesn't make jokes about assists. It shows assists happening. It demonstrates the concept through action rather than explanation. The humor comes from how effortless it looks. She's not trying to be funny. The situation itself becomes funny because she's just too aware of everything happening around her. She's reading the room like she reads defenses. And that awareness translates into small moments that feel impossible, but still believable if you've watched her play enough. The beauty of this approach is that it works on multiple levels. On one level, it's just a funny commercial about someone who's really good at passing. But on another level, it's capturing something fundamental about what makes her special. Elite basketball players at that level aren't just good at one thing. They have this spatial awareness, this understanding of angles and timing that extends beyond the game. They see plays developing before other people see them, and the commercial translates that into real-life scenarios. In her college career, she consistently ranked among national leaders in both points and assists simultaneously, something that almost never overlaps at that scale. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's the product of someone who understands the game at a deeper level than most. She knows when to score and when to facilitate. She knows when to keep it and when to pass it. And the Game Bridge commercial leans into that duality without even needing to say it directly. The transitions throughout the commercial feel natural because they're building small moment on small moment. There's no big setup, no grand reveal. It's just assist after assist after assist, each one landing slightly differently, each one showing a different facet of the same skill. And that accumulation is what makes the commercial work, because it's not telling you she's great at assists. It's showing you what great at assists actually looks like in practice. What makes this commercial particularly clever is how it avoids being mechanical. Some commercials about skills feel robotic. They set up the skill and then demonstrate it and then explain it. But this one just lets it happen. The assists are funny because they feel natural. They're not being forced. She's just too aware of everything, and that awareness becomes the joke. And when you combine that with the savings angle that the brand is actually selling, it creates this perfect blend of entertainment and messaging. The State Farm Instagram-style Chris Paul retirement reaction campaign feels less like a commercial and more like something that accidentally went viral before anyone realized it was branded content. And that's exactly the point. It opens in the social media native format where Caitlin Clark is reacting to news being shared online. The structure is intentionally loose, like a repost, like a clip, like a reaction feed moment, rather than a polished TV spot with production value dripping from every frame. The core idea is simple. Chris Paul's retirement storyline gets folded into a State Farm scenario. Caitlin Clark appears as part of the reaction chain, but what makes it different is the execution. Auto State Farm agent, so here for your questions. Hey Chris, you retiring? Want to help with this question? Allow me to assist. Dad, are you retiring? I'm pretty sure this video gets a lot. I'm going to try to lie. I ain't going to lie. Tell me you retired? And there she is. Chris Paul, a player with over 20 seasons in the NBA, more than 11,000 career assists, and one of the highest basketball IQ reputations in the league, is framed in this comedic retirement question setup. But instead of a serious tone, the ad leans into confusion, interruptions, and layered reactions. State Farm agents jump in. Jake from State Farm appears trying to assist the situation. Caitlin Clark's presence sits in the middle of it like she's watching a conversation unfold in real time that keeps escalating beyond control and sense. Who says you're going to retire? Is it true? You can tell me. Oh, is this meta? Why are you going to retire? There's a moment where the tone shifts into this comedic overload. Questions about retirement, interruptions, fake allow me to assist responses, and characters stepping in at the wrong time. That's what makes it feel modern because it's structured like the way sports news actually spreads now. Clips, reposts, reactions, confusion, and humor all stacked on top of each other within minutes. The genius of this commercial is that it's not linear. It's not a beginning, middle, and end structure that traditional commercials follow. It's more like scrolling through a thread where information is getting added in real time. Messages are crossing each other. People are misunderstanding. Context is getting lost. And in the middle of all that chaos, Caitlin Clark exists as part of the ecosystem, reacting and responding like she's just another person watching the conversation spiral. This isn't just a commercial anymore. It's a simulated social media moment. And just when it feels like State Farm has already peaked the chaos, they go back to something even more classic, which is almost jarring because you've just experienced the social media native version and suddenly you're back in traditional commercial territory. But that's exactly what makes the full campaign work. They can do the comedy sketches. They can do the serious spots. They can do the social media native versions. And Caitlin fits into all of them because she's that kind of presence. What's interesting about this approach is how it acknowledges where culture is moving. Young people aren't watching traditional commercials anymore. They're watching clips. They're watching reposts. They're watching reactions. And they're seeing how information spreads through those platforms in real time. State Farm didn't just make a commercial about that. They made a commercial that mimics that exact process. They made a commercial that feels like a genuine social moment rather than a branded message. The presentation also works because it strips away the artificial polish that usually comes with advertising. Commercials are typically overproduced. They're carefully lit. They're carefully shot. They're carefully edited. But this one has the aesthetic of something that's being captured rather than created. It has the feel of organic content, even though it's obviously carefully constructed. And that's the trick that makes it work. It's constructed to feel unconstructed. The State Farm Rookie Move commercial is where Caitlin Clark fully embraces self-aware humor in a way that feels earned. This one plays directly off her WNBA rookie season narrative, but with a twist that makes it land harder than a typical rookie joke. She entered the league as one of the most hyped rookies in women's basketball history, coming off a college career where she became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA Division I women's basketball with 3,951 points. She also hit over 340 career three-pointers, many from distances that statistically sit well beyond the average college shooting range. So State Farm builds the entire joke around that rookie identity, but then subverts it. The setup starts with a typical household accident scenario involving a garage, a confused driver, and a classic rookie mistake situation. But then the joke flips because Caitlin Clark herself gets pulled into the conversation about what counts as a rookie move, and that's where the humor actually lives. I could have sworn it was open. Rookie move. I was a rookie once. Caitlin Clark, aren't you Rookie of the Year? That was last year. Ancient history. The stories that I could tell you. Here, pull up a chair. She is introduced as Rookie of the Year, but the ad immediately undercuts that by treating it like old history. The dialogue keeps layering irony. Rookie mistakes being discussed. Experienced voices jumping in. Caitlin standing in the middle of it like someone who is technically still early in her career, but already treated like a veteran presence in media culture. It's the kind of tonal mismatch that could feel forced, but in this case, it works because the audience already knows the context. She wasn't just a rookie in the traditional sense. One of the most replayed parts of the ad is where the serious insurance-style messaging blends with comedic timing. Jake from State Farm steps in to assist. The idea of experience versus inexperience gets turned into a running joke instead of a serious comparison. Okay, I meant this rookie driver made that rookie move. Whoa, dude, no matter how long you've been in the game. Game? Oh man, rookie move. And it works because the audience already knows her trajectory. She entered the league averaging over 19 points and 8 assists per game, immediately becoming one of the most statistically impactful first-year guards in WNBA history. So when the ad calls something a rookie move, it feels layered. It's not just about mistakes. It's about perception versus reality. The commercial is saying that Caitlin Clark is a rookie on a technicality, but she's a veteran in every other way that matters. She's been breaking records since day one. She's been selling out arenas. She's been on commercials with legends. She's been driving viewership numbers that have never been seen before. So calling her a rookie becomes this ironic statement that undercuts itself immediately. The commercial also works because it doesn't take itself seriously. There's a lightness to it that allows the joke to breathe. Most commercials are careful about tone. They're precious about the message. But this one is willing to be silly about the rookie concept because the whole premise is already silly. Of course, she's not a rookie in any meaningful sense. The commercial is joking about a technicality that everyone knows is absurd, and that's what makes it funny. What's particularly clever is how the commercial uses her actual impact to inform the joke. Her rookie season broke league metrics. Attendance went up. Viewership went through the roof. Teams moved to bigger arenas. Opponents sold out home games. Jerseys flew off shelves. And the commercial takes that success and uses it to undermine the rookie label. Because how can you be a rookie when you're already doing all of that? It's a joke that only works because the underlying facts are that insane. The dialogue also has this natural back and forth that doesn't feel scripted in the way typical commercials feel scripted. The interruptions feel real. The confusion feels genuine. The layering of comments feels organic. And because Jake from State Farm is treated as just another voice in the confusion rather than some authoritative figure, the whole thing feels like a genuine conversation rather than a sales pitch. Which is why it's so effective as a commercial. It's not selling you on anything hard. It's just observing something funny and letting you laugh at it. The Gatorade Let Her Cook campaign feels different immediately because it drops most of the comedy structure and leans into emotional, almost documentary-style storytelling. The visuals are slower. The tone is heavier. There's less of the playful energy that defined the other commercials and more of the grinding reality of what it takes to actually get to that level. The commercial shows repetition, sweat, missed shots, exhaustion, and the grind behind performance. And instead of punchlines, it leans into repetition of effort, of losing, of learning, of working, of repeating. Here, W's aren't given. You've got to earn it. By losing sweat. The core idea is simple but powerful. Success is built through accumulation of effort, not isolated moments. The commercial doesn't show highlights. It shows practice. It shows effort. It shows the thousands of repetitions that happen when nobody's watching, when there's no camera, when there's no stadium, when it's just you and the work and the commitment to being better than you were yesterday. What makes this interesting is how the internet reacted to it. Because instead of just praising it as serious art, people started turning it into a meme space. Viewers joked about the slogan's intensity, pointing out how dramatic the wording sounded compared to how naturally Caitlin Clark's actual game flows. Some comments highlighted the irony of how serious the tone felt for something tied to one of the most naturally expressive players in basketball. She's someone who seems to enjoy the game effortlessly, who smiles during big moments, who brings joy to what she does. And then Gatorade shows her in this serious, almost pained effort aesthetic. And that reaction itself became part of the ad's identity, because Caitlin Clark exists in this rare space where she can appear in a serious, almost cinematic sports commercial, and also in a popcorn-throwing, assist-focused comedy ad in the same brand cycle. And the contrast is what makes the whole ecosystem interesting. She's not just one thing. She's not one tone. She's not one approach. The commercial also works because it's honest about what elite performance requires. There's something respectful about acknowledging that behind every highlight, behind every incredible shot, behind every moment that makes fans lose their minds, there's a foundation of work that nobody sees. The Gatorade commercial doesn't shy away from that. It leans into it. It says this is what it costs. This is what she put in. This is why she's able to do what she does. The production quality is cinematic. The lighting is careful. The pacing is deliberate. It's the kind of commercial that could play before a film. It has that weight to it. And that weight is intentional because the message is that what happens on the court isn't accidental. It's earned through countless hours of work that most people never see. Most people see the made shots. They don't see the missed shots. They see the wins. They don't see the losses. They see the final product. They don't see the foundation. What's also interesting is how this commercial doesn't try to be funny or clever in the way the other ads are. It's not trying to extract humor from what she does. It's trying to honor the effort that enables what she does. And that's a different kind of commercial entirely. It's more of a tribute. It's more of a recognition. It's saying we see the work. We understand what goes into this. We respect that. And Gatorade is part of that journey because hydration is part of that grind. The commercial also speaks to something deeper about Caitlin Clark's career trajectory. She didn't just show up and start hitting threes. She put in the work. She developed her game. She refined her skills. She improved season after season. And the Gatorade commercial acknowledges that without ever saying it directly. It just shows it. Shows the commitment. Shows the effort. Shows the repetition. And trusts that the audience understands what they're seeing. When you line all of this up, it becomes pretty clear what's actually happening. These aren't just separate commercials existing independently. They're different ways brands are building around the same central idea. Caitlin Clark is the center of the moment, not just another athlete in the frame. In one ad, she's reading angles like a playmaker off the court. In another, she's dropped into a fast, chaotic reaction-style setup. In another, she's joking about being a rookie while already playing like a key piece of the league. And in another, she's the serious voice in a grind-to-greatness story. Different tones, different brands, same effect. Every time she shows up, the scene naturally tilts toward her without her forcing anything. She just feels like the main point of focus. And that's why these ads spread, not because they're huge productions with massive budgets, but because they turn small moments into clips people replay and share. One assist becomes a joke. One reaction becomes a meme. One rookie line becomes irony. One training moment becomes a debate. And in the end, it all circles back to one name: Caitlin Clark. What's remarkable about this collection of commercials is that they all work individually, but they're even more powerful collectively. Because together, they paint a picture of someone who is multi-dimensional. She's funny and serious. She's confident and competitive. She's natural in high-pressure moments and effortless in everyday situations. She brings joy and she brings intensity. She's approachable and she's exceptional. The brands understood something important. They understood that authenticity is what makes commercials land in a world where people are skeptical of advertising. Everyone can smell a fake endorsement from a mile away. But when you genuinely tap into who someone is, when you build campaigns around things that actually happened, when you let the person's real personality shine through, that's when people pay attention. That's when they share. That's when they care. Nike found humor in her range. State Farm found her identity in everyday moments. Capital One found respect among legends. Xfinity found the understated joke. GameBridge found her court vision everywhere. State Farm Instagram found her in social media chaos. State Farm again found irony in her rookie status. And Gatorade found the work behind the performance. 8 different campaigns, 8 different approaches, all true. What's also important to recognize is the timing of all of this. These commercials are happening during a moment when women's sports are finally getting the attention they've deserved for years. And Caitlin Clark is positioned at the center of that moment. She's not just a player. She's a phenomenon. She's someone who is changing the conversation about what's possible, about what audiences will watch, about what brands will invest in, about what narratives matter. The commercial ecosystem works because it reflects the actual diversity of who she is as a person and as a player. She's not a one-note athlete. She's not someone who fits into a single advertising formula. She's complex enough to work across comedy, drama, self-aware humor, documentary style, and chaos. And each of those approaches reveals something different about her while still maintaining the core of who she actually is. What's happening here is bigger than just successful advertising. What's happening is culture shift. Young audiences are seeing themselves reflected in these commercials. They're seeing athletes who are funny, who are smart, who are self-aware, who don't take themselves too seriously, but take their craft incredibly seriously. They're seeing commercials that feel like content rather than sales pitches. They're seeing something that feels authentic in a world that often feels plastic.